Hello, my name is Teal Welling, and I'd like you to subscribe to this page. Just hit the subscribe button below, and then just to the right of that, hit the bell button, which will inform you of when I make more videos. When I post them, you'll get a notification. Hello, my name is Teal Welling, and I'm going to talk to you today about the research that I've been doing that you can see off to my side. The research that I'm going to talk to you about is kind of layered and complicated, and it's something that I've been working on for the last about month. A little bit longer, but some of the main elements of it have just come to light about a month ago. You have two walls. Big wall here and a big wall here. Each one is about 1,000 miles long, and they're not parallel. They're slightly off from parallel. Not entirely different from the angle of a Freemason compass. So you have, in this situation, you have the Earth, and you have the ray, the ATEN array of the pyramids and the causeways. The causeways are obviously an array, build an array, which is the ATEN, ATEN. And then you have something else. Now, in ancient Egyptian mythology, you have Ra. The character of Ra didn't really come in until after the Hyksos invasion of around 2100 BC. And when the Hyksos invaded, they brought in Ra, and they put Ra and the AMUN together into a single concept, Amun-Ra. Above Amun-Ra is the ATEN, which the Egyptians, with the Hyksos Egyptians, would then harness the ATEN and then use its power to create Amun-Ra. Now, Amun-Ra, Ra itself is the harnesser of the sun. The sun being Ra. Okay. So you have the sun god of Ra, and then this amorphous Amen type thing. What I'm proposing is an explanation for this situation. So you have a double wall. The wall of the Nile River, which the temples from the mouth of the Nile River, which is a really wide mouth, the mouth of the river to its headwaters, which is approximately 1,000 miles away, give or take. You have the Fertile Crescent, and you have from the point where the Anatolia Peninsula merges into the Middle East, which there's a city not too far from there, which is a supposed very very loosely documented birthplace of Saul of Tarsus. Tarsus is right at the northern portion of that. 1,000 miles later, you have the end of the Fertile Crescent. So you have the Fertile Crescent, and then you have the Nile. Now, in here is about 30 miles of the pyramids of Egypt, which is what makes up the array, which is part of the array is a electromagnetic wave radio telescope system. It's the materials are hundreds of millions of tons of very, very intricately carved rock in the shape of, that is, the material is, the shape is the ATEN, of course, but the materials used are, the materials of the, if I can keep concentration, the materials are quartz. Why couldn't I think of quartz? I've said this speech several times. So you have quartz making up more than 90% of the materials of the limestone, the granite, the marble, and so on. So you have a large array of devices and carvings that are designed to capture and channel electromagnetic waves, frequencies, vibrations, signatures, whatever, to listening rooms, which have been mislabeled as funerary temples. They're not funerary temples, they're listening rooms. In addition to that, you have the structures of the walls, and you have the walls that are designed to pump it to pulse from both directions at each other electromagnetic waves. Well, as those electromagnetic waves collect into, there's a lot of electricity is being made here, and a lot of electricity is being made here, and the temples are pulsing at each other through the array, electromagnetic wave radio telescope. Although radio waves is just one aspect of electromagnetic waves. As you have a lot of those things pumping at each other, they create a sphere, electromagnetic sphere inside of the not quite parallel lines. As they do that electromagnetic collection thing, layers and layers and complicated aspects and sequences and such of electromagnetics that gather and are kind of isolated inside that electromagnetic 0G sphere. So as the more you have these things going on, the more you can see and process the information that is happening. That there's as the Earth's magnetosphere pushes pushes orbital east into the solar wind, it creates a tunnel inside the solar wind. Well, the solar wind then wraps around and then leaves a tunnel, a straw, a shaft, a mine, a elevator shaft, a straw, tunnel, cave, what have you, orbital west. What fills that the inside of that the information of the electromagnetics that is in there is in part the sun beats down, the sun electromagnetically and particle wise beats down on the Earth. In these two specific sequenced out temples, you have a lot of electromagnetics, and the electromagnetics are in part enhanced by the thermodynamic rotation of the Earth around the sun. As the Earth rotates, as the quartz is heat, the materials of the quartz heat up, they expand, which compresses rock that they're connected to, which means that rock compresses. As quartz compresses, it releases electricity. Therefore, you have a whole bunch of electricity here and a whole bunch of electricity here, and they're pumping at each other at different rates, volumes, and aspects over the course of 12 to 14 hours of daylight. So you have a lot of things going on here, but in that sphere, you have pump of electromagnetics, and then in that sphere, and then you have the ATEN pumping electromagnetic sequences and frequencies down as it moves overhead. As those things are occurring, you will have very, very difficult to say that this is incorrect. What you have created in that sphere is compressed layer upon layer upon layer upon layer times unknown number of layers, because each there's a causeway here and a causeway here, and so there's 16 causeways. Well, the energy goes there, but it's not isolated inside there. you can define the entrance temple as the beginning as an anchor point to an Einstein-Rosen bridge. Well, as you have that the temple is pointing in this direction that has an Einstein-Rosen bridge, very, very likely connection, because in the Egyptian religion, a lot of the deities had the ATEN built into their headdress. Well, if you have a lot of Egyptian deities pictured in the entrance temples of those 16 entrance temples to those pyramid complexes, then you're going to have a representation of that deity with the ATEN crown. Well, if you look at it in a slightly different way, that's actually a bridge, which describes fairly well the circle and then the walkway, because it goes from a single point and it spreads out. Well, as it spreads out, as geometry and the great Renaissance artists defined, that is how to create depth in a two-dimensional format. So you have depth created by the ATEN. So you have this and a circle. Well, this would be a circle that a gateway, and the extended walkway, the extended bridge, the extended causeway from that. So you have a circle or a gateway. So in Egyptology itself, it even semi-describes a Einstein-Rosen bridge between the pyramids and Levant Lands, and from Levant Lands back to Egypt. But that's in a different culture's mythology and such. But the descriptions are semi-clear if you look at it with a certain perspective. Then the information is very clear. If you don't look at it from that perspective, the information is vague and weird and mythological, and I don't understand what these stories are about. But if you look at it through this filter, then the stories of the Middle Eastern cultures, the Sumerian cultures, their mythologies start to make a little bit sense with this specific information parameter set in. So you have this, and you have the sphere and the ATEN coming down. And you have an ATEN here and an ATEN here, and a century ago, Dr. Einstein and Dr. Rosen got together and created a theorem about an Einstein-Rosen bridge, an electromagnetic bridge between two fixed points. Well, you have a temple here on this side and a temple here on this side. So you have your fixed points. And along with your fixed points, you have a causeway. You have that causeway, but that causeway there's a bridge there. But a bridge, an Einstein-Rosen bridge, would not just be compressed to just the tunnel. It would have electromagnetic offshoots of various and assorted waves from each of the bridges. So, and that the electromagnetics would extend from the ground to the top of the ionosphere. So you have a top parameter of the ionosphere. You have the slightly not parallel but slightly in. So you have a stopping point north and a semi-stopping point to the south, with lines of temples that curve in on both sides. So you have a three-dimensional north, south, east, and west all have temple walls that contain this electromagnetic magnetosphere. Well, as you have that contained electromagnetic magnetosphere, the causeways this is a line of electromagnetics, and this is a line of electromagnetics, and this is duplicate, and this is duplicate. And there's 16 of those ranging through the Middle East. You have the lines coming down from the waves and such coming down from the ATEN above, and these the waves that are not directly connected to the pyramids of Egypt. Several hundred miles up and down the Nile, you have temples that are pumped in this direction. In the Fertile Crescent, you have hundreds, if not thousands, of temples pumping that direction. So you have they're pumping at each other and creating layers and layers and layers of electromagnetics. That's the exact same engineering minus the biochemical structures of the of neurons, and of course of the other structures in the brain. There's a brain in that infrastructure. Between just below the ionosphere, above the ground, you have in that electromagnetic sphere of 0G sphere, you have a brain. You have the structures of a brain because you have electromagnetics crossing each other and interacting and such, and that's chemically, that's how thought is created, just minus the chemicals. Although it can be defined that if you have lightning storms or thunderstorms or any kind of stormage activity in that not all that small brain area, that spherical area, if you have that going on, what you're going to experience is you're going to start to begin to experience the functionality and structure of those waves in the clouds actually do start to form aspects of thought. And as you have some aspects of the concepts of the application of the performance of thought, then when you have thought, you can have consciousness, you have cognition. This is something that can be deeply explored over time. Hit like and hit the subscribe to this channel and the little bell next to it, and of course like, and thank you very much for your time and your patience. More videos to come. Thank you so much.